Enormous news from last night. Biden went on CNN to announce that the U.S. will stop sending Israel certain offensive weaponry, artillery shells, bombs for fighter jets, other offensive weapons because of the pending Rafah invasion. He specifies population centers in Rafah. That's one caveat I want to bring to the forefront here, and a notable distinction. More on that in a second. But as a reminder, Rafah is currently home to 600,000 children, 1.4 million people sheltering. This was supposedly the safe space that they were supposed to go, according to the IDF. It's their last refuge. According to the United Nations, no aid trucks have entered Gaza since Sunday. So they're already starving them to death. And a ground invasion has long rumored to be the red line for the Biden administration on supplying arms. Significantly, in Biden's public statement, you'll hear this in a second, he finally admitted that the 2,000-pound bombs that the U.S. has been sending to Israel have been used to kill civilians. And this is, by the way, consistent with a report from December that came out from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and they leaked it. It was leaked to CNN, showing that nearly half of the bombs dropped in Gaza are dumb bombs, massive, imprecise bombs, imprecise weaponry on purpose, designed to kill as many people as possible. But this is an important moment because Biden finally, 7 months into a genocide, acknowledges this reality.
I want to ask you about something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you defined it yet?
They haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border, and it's causing problems with right now in terms of with Egypt, which I've worked very hard to make sure we have a relationship and help. But I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers. We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
So it's not over your red line yet?
Not yet, but we've held up the weapons. We've held up the one shipment as an old shipment that was been designed for. We've held that up.
And
so I want to put aside my fury for a second that this didn't happen sooner. The distinction about the population centers, I think, is important, but I can't gloss over this key fact. This does mark, I think, one of the most significant shifts in the U.S.-Israel relationship in the short history of the state of Israel and our patronage of the settler colonial project. It took them committing an act of genocide to get to this break. And Biden has insisted on hugging Israel and Netanyahu, literally, by the way, but publicly, while behind the scenes trying to pressure them. But clearly, they're beginning, hopefully, to understand that the intent is not to wage a war against Hamas. It's to commit a genocide. And so it's quite difficult to reason with people who are attempting to exterminate a population in whole or in part. And this sheds new light on something that a report that came out in Axios from Barak Ravid, who again works intimately with the White House and puts out exactly what they want to have out there into the public. That is his role, and it's why he got an award at the White House Correspondents' Dinner a few weeks ago. These, in the background of all of this, were these ceasefire negotiations. Now, some of this is speculation here, but it's informed by this article, and I think you can pretty easily read between the lines, which showed that Israel was, quote, frustrated with how the U.S. was handling the hostage talks. And it opens here. Israeli officials claim the Biden administration knew about the latest hostage and ceasefire deal proposal Egypt and Qatar negotiated with Hamas, but didn't brief Israel before Hamas announced it accepted on Monday. A senior U.S. official pushed back, saying American diplomats have been engaged with Israeli counterparts. There have been no surprises. So either Israel is lying, which I'm sure they are in part, or it's both. Israel is lying that they were engaging in these ceasefire talks in good faith, that they didn't agree to the full text of the deal because they wanted to go to with the Rafah invasion anyway. And it can also be true that that there were no surprises, but that America might be working with Hamas through these intermediaries, which would enrage Israel because that would show more of an even hand. Let's skip towards the end here, because this is where you get these money quotes. Again, this is from Monday. 2 Israeli officials said Israel is deeply suspicious that the Biden administration gave guarantees to Hamas through Egyptian and Qatari mediators about its key demand that a hostage deal will lead to the end of the war. Israel has said it will not commit to ending the war as a part of a hostage deal, and that once the deal is implemented, it will resume the fighting in Gaza until Hamas is defeated. Hamas chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayy told Al Jazeera that Hamas received assurances from the Egyptian and Qatari mediators that President Biden is committed to ensure that any hostage deal is fully implemented. We think the Americans conveyed the message to Hamas that it will be okay when it comes to ending the war, one senior Israeli official said. So that just basically shows to me that the United States is talking more and with the Hamas delegation, the Hamas representatives, and attempting to give them assurances outside of what Israel is saying in the straightforward ceasefire talks. And it's also notable to me that Bill Burns and the CIA are leading these negotiations. And we've said this from the beginning, that the rhetoric coming from the Defense Department, from the CIA, and those strictly interested in maintaining American empire, not ideologically Zionist, maintaining U.S. dominance worldwide and specifically in the Middle East, there has been a different tone struck, because this is massively problematic for United States strategic interests in the region and legitimacy. There's only so much we can do by brute force, and it's beginning to turn in this way. Way too many people have died. We know it's enormously past the reported death tolls of around 35,000 that we know, because there are many, many people under rubble that are unaccounted for. And we also know that there's no reporting or infrastructure left, so thousands of people could be dying as we speak, and we just have no idea, and we know they're starving to death. But I do think that this is significant. I mean, and it depends on what's it going to be significant of. Is it a PR shift, or is it going to be policy? We ultimately just need to see people dying and start being fed until we can really judge this. But, you know, I think Norm Finkelstein put it pretty well. I'll shorten his tweet a little bit, but even if this policy shift saves only one life, still that one life might be your own. It was primarily the student demonstrations that forced this change, that it weigh heavily on the conscience of every university president contemplating the expulsion of these students. You are punishing young people who have saved lives that, but for the grace of God, might have been your own. So yeah, while I'm infinitely pessimistic about the sincerity of changes like this, given just the track record, I agree. Justifiably. I agree with that, and thank these students, and keep pushing. And Netanyahu's panicking, so he tweeted out this video. The reason I also that this is relevant was Holocaust Remembrance Day was Monday, right, Bradley? Yeah. So he gave this speech on Monday, and this was also right when this article was released by Axios. So the ceasefire negotiations were happening in this background. Netanyahu made these statements and then tweeted them out just hours ago, basically reiterating a shot across the bow to Biden.
The angrier they are, the more righteousness is being done.
I will enjoy. You will enjoy this, I'm sure, audience, and I enjoyed seeing this monster squirm very, very much.
80 years ago, in the Holocaust, the Jewish people were totally defenseless against those who sought our destruction. No nation came to our aid. Today, we again confront enemies bent on our destruction. I say to the leaders of the world, no amount of pressure, no decision by any international forum will stop Israel from defending itself. As the Prime Minister of Israel, the one and only Jewish state, I pledge here today from Jerusalem on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, if Israel is forced to stand alone, Israel will stand alone.
Good luck.
But we know we're not alone, because countless decent people around the world support our just cause. And I say to you, we will defeat our genocidal enemies. Never again is now.
Damn right. Never again for anyone, I will say.
Despicable that the lesson of the Holocaust has gone from these people were victimized by ethno-nationalism to Jewish people were weak because they lacked ethno-nationalism.
That's by the way a widespread sentiment within Israel is that we are the strong Jews.
We wouldn't, a little bit anti-Semitic.
We wouldn't let that.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, right. We wouldn't let it happen to us. I mean, and that's exactly it. And the fact
it's
that
like Kanye on slavery, kind of.
Oh, totally, right. And you also
sounds like a choice.
Right. You also see how they're using the word genocide more often, because this is typical Hasbara and typical right-wing playbook in this country too, where you'll see them just decide like, oh, this word is catching on. We're going to just completely distort the meaning of it. The genocidal ones are the people opposing Israel right now, according to Benjamin Netanyahu. And just to put a button on it, as I said earlier, Ben-Gvir tweeted Biden heart Hamas. So apparently Biden's Hamas now. Good thing Biden spent 7 months supporting these guys.
Hey, Joe, remember what happened to Anwar al-Awlaki?
Yeah.
Broke that seal for a reason.
Look, I mean, honestly, if these genocidal maniacs were wearing keffiyehs or I never know how to say it, thobe swap. It's
don't ask me.
We'd be calling them terrorists and saying they're hellbent on the destruction.
Fascists.
Yeah. So let's hope this shift means something greater.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.